You know what's up already. Hit like on this video if you read a book, then didn't recognize the movie, or watched the series, then bought the books and went all... Every time Hollywood gets their hands on a beloved book series, they're trying to update it so that younger audiences, new generations, more people can step in this exciting universe and find themselves represented. You know where this is going, right? Join me and let's examine why this fails so often, from changing the setting to gender swapping, alienating fans, and more. We'll use the new BBC series The Watch that just came out to showcase how Hollywood kills a good book in 3 or 4 short steps. Might as well just burn them at this point.
By the time you guys grow up, there won't be one book left.
Stay tuned. I also prepared a list of key differences between the books and the series, and what to watch if you love faithful adaptations. For those of you unfamiliar with it, Discworld is one of the longest running fantasy series ever. Terry Pratchett was the best-selling British author all through the 90s, with more than 80 million copies sold, dozens definitely to me.
But your sales are underreported because it's claimed that you're the most shoplifted author in Britain.
They keep saying that, you know, and I'm sure it must be time for a recount because that was 1996. I'm sure someone's overtaken me by now.
Now there's a TV series out there, currently running, or maybe haunting my TiVo Stream 4K, since it's such a bad adaptation that every time I see the thumbnail, I'm literally grieving my childhood memories. Bugger it. Millennium Hand and Shrimp. Hot take, I blame all this on diversity quotas, gender swapping, thoughtless inclusion, all of them not for any higher meaning, but just blatant cash grabs. Maybe don't grab the pitchfork yet, hear me out, I really think this needs to be talked about. And if you agree, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button for more discussions like this. You usually see here recommendations for the best movies and shows you can find on streaming apps, but I thought it was important to also critically examine some of the biggest fails. You know how it is, sometimes you just gotta rant hoping something changes. My problem is that they took an already inclusive, thoughtful material and tried to update it to hit every checkmark. And they did it carelessly, without fully understanding the original source material and the social commentary it had.
My lord, he's here.
When we got to Lord Vetinari, we felt that there was a lot of kind of patriarchal presumptions about that character. So we thought it would be really subversive and interesting and would speak to what we're doing with gender fluidity. We thought, you know what, Vetinari should be a woman.
Which means they erased what made it inclusive in the first place. Anyway, the success of Discworld was driven forward by the Watch novels, dedicated to this fictional world's police unit. Considering procedural and cop books usually translate awesome to the screen, BBC's The Watch series should have been a hit. It's based on a fantasy series set in the 1900s, full of diverse characters, lots of hilarious one-liners, and surprisingly biting satire. The books touch politics, democracy, the role of police in a society, gender identity, self-expression, personal responsibility, and a lot of other major themes. All of this is delivered with the love and understanding for people, with all their quirks and flaws. The show so far seems to not really touch these themes, but actually manhandle them until they scream for mercy. So what happened? Here's my theory. It's the great Hollywood shit show. Pardon my French and share yours in the comments below. BBC America put the Watch show through the Hollywood grinder to both get to a wider audience and pander to some demographics, literally missing the forest from the trees. If you're new to this show and universe, I can bet money you're gonna walk away either confused or not really engaged in it because the showrunners don't seem to either commit or walk away entirely from the source material. This makes for a big mess. Still, don't go anywhere because later on I'll share the best adaptations you can watch right now. Anyway, if you're a Discworld fan, well, I'm gonna quote a Redditor and say that this show is to Discworld as Dibbler's Pies is to actual food. Still, no matter if you're new or a veteran to the series, watch these comparisons and tell me if you think these changes make any sense. The books happen in what seems to be a fictional late 1800s London. Think Dickens and his street urchins, or maybe old school Sherlock Holmes. The show? An odd mix of Game of Thrones types of settings, wannabe Blade Runner, some steampunk, the same song used in Trainspotting, which is a movie about heroin in 80s Scotland, so that makes sense. It's like Hollywood execs discovered chocolate, jelly beans, and potato chips and decided to put everything in the salad shaker. Now to the main character. Sam Vimes in the books is a cynical cop who's something like a hard-boiled detective from film noir. Still, his whole thing is that he's trying to be better. He quit drinking, he assumes more and more responsibilities to the citizens he serves, especially the oppressed, and struggles to balance that heavy load with his family life. Sam Vimes in the series wears black eyeliner and seems to be ready to cry every 5 minutes. The actor Richard Dormer is absolutely amazing, but he somehow ended up hamming it up and looking like Jack Sparrow.
You have the right to remain silent.
His wife in the books, Sybil, comes from the oldest and richest family in the city. She is described as a heavy-set, no-nonsense older woman who wears quality but really old clothes and works all day as a dragon foster mom up to her elbows in, you can imagine what. In the relationship with Vimes, she's a loving wife who supports her husband from the background. Still, in key moments, she lays down the law and saves the day with her wisdom, connections, and/or fortune. Now check her out in the show, where she's basically an extremely attractive woman dressed to the nines. She's rich and a vigilante like Batman, but acts more like Joker trying to bring back anarchy to the UK.
When I ride hard.
Lara Rossi, the actress, has an awesome screen presence, but Sybil the character was a lot more like someone from The Crown, and nothing like this. So what happened? Well, my money is on diversity quotas and trying to have strong female characters, but just that one type. You know, the ones who look hot while kicking ass. I don't even want to touch on race, but I do think this casting is super problematic. It's funny how showrunners want representation and diversity, but in a Hollywood full of talented actresses who can't find work because of their age or their physical appearance, they picked a young, attractive actress to play the part of an older, heavier woman. I have the exact same problem with the character of Cheery Littlebottom, who left the books as a female dwarf struggling to wear earrings and ended up in Hollywood as a tall trans person. I can hear you gasping from here, but wait. In the books, Cheery is basically one of the most in-depth character explorations on gender identity and self-expression, and a great way to poke fun at other fantasy series that are just filled with, well, dudes. Just like with Lord of the Rings, in Discworld, all the dwarfs look the same. Male, with long beards and sharp axes. Females exist, but they also have to look like Gimli. In this world, Cheery slowly and bravely starts coming out as female, despite living in a close-minded, downright oppressive society. In the show, she's no longer a dwarf. She also appears to be fully accepted by her peers as obviously non-binary, and her inspiring journey from the books is just deleted, just like some other major characters. I ask you, is this the representation wanted and needed in our media? I think cutting out the character journey is a very reductive and simplified way for the showrunners to represent non-binary people, but I'm open to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Then, we have gender swapping left and right, and I'm just gonna give you one example. In another adaptation of Discworld books, the ruler of the city, the patrician, was played by Charles Dance. He did an incredible job to stay faithful to the source material, so much so that he seemed to literally come to life from the book pages. Think Tywin Lannister, but with a sense of humor.
Joke. Oh, I'm sorry. I hadn't realized. Do tell me if you feel obliged to make another.
Overall, I do think BBC's The Watch perfectly showcases the age-old fight between Hollywood and the source material. And by not being faithful to the books, doesn't do them justice, disappoints the fans, and might even turn off new readers. By the way, there are some good, or at least entertaining and faithful adaptations of the Discworld novels. I use TiVo Stream 4K to organize my shows and movies from all the apps from TV to Netflix and BBC, and I keep these shows close by anytime I need a pick-me-up. Some of Terry Pratchett's most popular books were adapted by Sky in a trilogy of movies, all of them in 2 parts. Going Postal is a story where a sleazy con man has a choice: get beheaded for his crimes or use his skills to reorganize the dysfunctional post office and bring a city kicking and screaming into the new century.
Post office is back in business!
This is the movie I was telling you about, with Charles Dance playing the patrician, the supreme ruler of Discworld's largest city. You can find it free on Vimeo, left you the links below. Then there's The Hogfather, a pretty heartwarming Christmas movie. The basic plot is that Santa disappears and Death is forced to do his job, while Death's niece has to investigate what's happening. Pretty good if you're still in a holiday mood. And lastly, there's The Color of Magic, my favorite adaptation, featuring Sean Bean and Tim Curry. It's about a cowardly wizard and a clueless tourist who have to team up to save the world, and it's really fun.
No tour would be complete without a visit to the city's unseen university.
Well guys, sorry for the big rant, but I do think from time to time it needs to be done. I do hope we can start talking about it in the comments. Hollywood versus books is a topic that definitely needs to be explored more. and I think The Watch is one of many failed adaptations. Which other series do you think got an unfair treatment? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button if you want more content like this. See you next week, and GNU.